will show you wonders. Hinei Meseder HaKosov, from the order of the Pasuk. Initially it says, I will take you. First it says, like the days that I will take you out of Mitzrayim, and then it shows, I will show you wonders. Aراנו Niflois Kimei Tzeis Chamesh Mitzrayim. It doesn't say, I will show you wonders like your days going out of Mitzrayim. So it's an interesting diuk that the Rebbe has over here with that. As he says, moving, it's understood that when it says like your days going out of the land of Mitzrayim, it's not just a description of the future redemption. That it will be like going out of Mitzrayim. Rather, it is something core and primary in the future redemption. In other words, that's why it's the first thing. The first thing is Kimei Tzeis Chamesh Mitzrayim, and then the next thing is Aránu Niflאות. So that's also the reason for the fact that also in the future redemption I will show you wonders. This is the reason for it, because of the wonders. Mitzrayim, it'll come as a result of going out of Mitzrayim. So he goes on and says, since going out of Mitzrayim is a primary thing in the future redemption, just like in going out of Mitzrayim, there was also the idea of the splitting of the sea. Through this was completed the going out of Mitzrayim. Therefore, specifically then, the Jewish people sang the songs of praise. Like it says, that the Jewish people saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. And because of that, that's what occurred, that they had the Shira because of it. So therefore, in a similar vein, the Rebbe says, therefore, this will take place also in the future redemption. Like it says, he transformed the sea to dry land, that in the river they will cross by foot. Over there we will rejoice with him. The it says he transformed the sea to the dry land. That used the word hafach. Hafach is written in past tense. Koi al kriyas yamsuf, it's referring to the splitting of the sea. In the future, the river they will cross by foot. It said in future tense. Koi al gulasida is referring to the future redemption. Vahain, this means, though transforming sea to dry land was something that was in the past. Seemingly, what happened already. What's the significance? But the pasuk is trying to tell you the significance. This is also an introduction and a preparation and a description on what's going to be in the future redemption. That also then in the river they will cross by foot. Just like they transformed sea to dry land in the splitting of the sea. So we see this ongoing idea that what took place in Mitzrayim, that goes on, the loss of Lavi, the splitting of the sea. We're going to have that when Mashiach comes. 2 lines from the bottom, just like the idea of the splitting of the sea. They transformed the sea to dry land, was through Hashem leading the wind in an eastern strong wind, or leading or moving the sea by an eastern strong wind the entire night, and that's how the water split. That was a core idea in the splitting of the sea. Top of page Vav. Through that, they stood like this, like like a wall. What's it mean? A wall of liquid. The water on their own are liquid and flowing. They stood upright like a wall. Like it's explained in Shaarich Dvar Malchus. If Hashem would have ceased the wind in a moment, so then the water would return and move again in a downward descent, like water always goes downward, like their nature is and like their way is. And they would have definitely not been standing upright like a wall, like the Alter Rebbe speaks about in Shaarich Dvar Malchus. So just like that great miracle took place when the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, so too concerning the river, they will cross by foot in the future times. And it says, that he will raise up his hand over the river by the strength of his spirit. What's it mean by the strength of the spirit? By the might and the strength of the spirit of Hashem, similar to the ruach that Hashem blew, wind, ruach, also meaning spirit, that Hashem blew by Yetzias Mitzrayim. And this goes back to another ruach, like it says right away at the beginning of the creation in Bereshis, that the spirit of Hashem was hovering over the face of the waters, just like the eastern wind that was in the splitting of the sea. Just like in the splitting of the sea, there was the idea that it says in the pasuk that Hashem illuminated the night. One of the meanings in this is that the very night itself shone. Also when Mashiach comes, there will be the idea that the night will shine like day. That the darkness itself will be luminous. So these are all the common denominators between Yetzias Mitzrayim and what's going to take place in Mashiach's times, but it's going to start all from Yetzias Mitzrayim, from the Kriyas Yamsuf. So now the Rebbe is going to analyze more about Kriyas Yamsuf. We're coming, this is a Maimer Vachon Shel Pesach, following Shvi Shel Pesach, the date of the splitting of the sea. Ois Beis, line 15. What we need to understand, in the Kriyas Yamsuf, what was our necessity that the idea of the splitting of the sea should be specifically through the great or the powerful eastern wind, what's the significance of the eastern wind? The Chazal say it's Aza Sheberuchis, that the eastern wind is the most powerful of the winds. That's why specifically he sent a wind from the east. Dafke. Pashtus, this idea that he had to use a wind, and not just any wind, but the most strongest type of wind, the one that comes from the east, indicates it's supposed to indicate how difficult this was. Chazal used the expression kosher kikriyas yamsuf. It's as difficult as the splitting of the sea. Because splitting of the sea was such a difficult thing, there was a need in the strength of specifically a strong eastern wind. That's how much Hashem had to invest, like kaviyachal energy, because it's a very difficult thing. In general, we need to understand how is it appropriate to say difficulty when we talk about Hashem. Like, for example, we speak about the difficulty of the splitting of the sea, and we use it as an example for whenever the Chazal want to speak about things that are difficult. They say difficult as splitting of the sea. It's an example for difficult things. It says it's difficult to join husband and wife, to mate them, like the splitting of the sea, like we have at the beginning of Masechta Saita, and Kashim is a noise of Chulu. It says difficult, the sustenance of a person, what he makes a living from. It's a very difficult thing. The L'chura in moving seemingly it's not understood. Why specifically is the splitting of the sea something that is very difficult? It's not something that involves a renewal, making something out of nothing, like the creations of heaven and earth. It's only something from something. It's not something from nothing. That the already existing water stood like a wall. Like the Alter Rebbe explains. The creation of heavens and earth, that's something from nothing, is a greater wonder than the splitting of the sea. The miracle was only by the splitting of the sea. It changed the nature of the water. The water didn't stop being water. It's just the nature changed, that they shouldn't return and flow downwards like their custom is, v'tivam, like the nature is, top of page Zayin. Even though this very nature is also something that's created something from nothing. So this very nature is already in existence, and you're changing it from one nature to do something different. As opposed to the creation of heaven and earth was from total and complete nothingness. Concerning this, Chazal said, if all the inhabitants of the world would gather together, they would not be able to do one thing. That's part of the creation. There are two versions of this. One version of this Maimon Chazal, they wouldn't be able to create even the smallest insect, even a yitush, even a gnat, they wouldn't be able to create. Or another expression is that they wouldn't be able to turn a raven's black wings, they wouldn't be able to make it white. The point being that there's nothing within creation and nothing that human beings can hold a candle to concerning the creation of the world and do anything similar to the creation of the world. Why is that so? Why is that so beyond the ken of human beings? This is bringing something totally new. It's only in the bosom of the Creator. It's only within the possession of the Creator. Not within the bosom of the creation, the created being. The Nivra, when we talk about a created being, has no approach to the entire idea of creating something. Doesn't just mean our creations of our physical world, but any creation, any being, any existence of the entire chain order of descent which Hashem created is incapable of doing anything of the creation process, only Hashem's very essence. To such a degree that there's nothing even similar to it within the bosom of the creations. Despite the fact that creating something from nothing is something so much greater and so much more powerful and so much more awesome than anything else. The idea that it's difficult for Hashem, it's said specifically concerning the splitting of the sea. We don't say it's as difficult as the creation of the world, even though the Alter Rebbe explains how the creation of the world, and Sharich Muni explains this is so much more beyond the whole idea of any type of miracle, even the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. Ois Gimel, line 11. The explanation this is Shakushi the Kriyas Yamsuf mitzad shinui chukei hateva shenikvu aydei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'ofen that shelo yesh b'osu. The difficulty of the splitting of the sea is because of changing the very laws of nature, that Hashem himself established these laws of nature in a set manner that it should not be changing. In in these rules of nature is also the separation that was made between waters and waters. In other words, the higher waters and the lower waters. And also, also the set rules and laws of nature made that there should be a separation between water and dry land, between the sea and the dry land. Like it says at the beginning of creation in Chumash Bereshis, it says, Yikavu amayim gomer, let the waters gather into one place, and dry land should appear. This means that Hashem set within the rules of nature that the sea should be separate and the dry land should be separate. Like it also says, that I placed the sands as the boundaries to the sea. That, in other words, the sea is only here and the dry land is over there. Because of the laws of nature, it should be in such a way that it never stops, that this will be always ongoing. The idea behind this is, what's the significance of the rules and laws of nature? Why should they not cease, and so on? Because the laws and rules of nature itself contribute to our appreciation of Hashem. So he says, the idea of godliness, it's possible to recognize from two types of ways how Hashem runs this world. Hanhoga Tivis, the natural way how he runs this world. Vanhoga Nisis, in a miraculous way how he runs the world. Hanhoga Tivis, the natural way, the way he runs the world, is the idea of the laws of heavens and earth in a way that doesn't cease. To such a degree, the way Chazal said in Yerushalmi in the Pasuk, these are the histories of the heavens and the earth when or as they were created. So the Yerushalmi explains, Bihi Boram comes to teach you Shem Chazakim Ki Yomi Boram, that the heavens and earth and all the constellations are as strong as the day that they were created. This means to say, even after many thousands of years pass, they are just as strong as the day of their creation. With this is recognized the power of the infinite as beyond measure and boundary, and that's why it's constant and consistent and doesn't change. Anything that's created should automatically and usually become deteriorates over time, weakens over time, becomes lessened over time. But over here you see something that is a manifestation of Hashem's infinite power. Just like He is infinite and unchanging and doesn't weaken, so He invested that power in the laws of nature, that the laws of nature go on, that the heavens and earth go on, non-changing without weakening. So that is one way how we can recognize Hashem. And similarly, it's possible to recognize godliness from where Hashem runs things in a miraculous way beyond nature. Top of page Ches. The Nes Lashon Arim Nes Alaharim. The word Nes is the word I will raise up a flag upon the mountains. It's the idea of raising up and lifting up. Openness Gufim Yesh Neifan. Now the Rebbe analyzes that in the miracle itself, there's two types of miracles. Yesh Neis She'ena Hepechukah Teva. One miracle is not the opposite of the laws of nature. In other words, going totally contrary to its laws, challenging some other laws. For example, the miracle of Mon descending from the heavens. Though this is a novel thing, it's a new thing. It's bread from heaven, which was never happened and never happened before and never happened after. Not only did it happen as a one-time event, it took place for a long time, for 40 years. Still in all, the fact that all of a sudden the heavens decided to give food, that Hashem wants to supply food from the heavens, it's not going against, you're not breaking certain innate rules of nature. But it's a miracle, it's the opposite of the laws of nature. For example, the miracle of the splitting the sea. He transformed and turned over the sea to dry land. The opposite of the laws of nature. The laws of nature is that the sea is something separate and the dry land is something separate. And similarly, water does not stand still. The nature of water is that it moves, that it descends. Since the laws of nature were re-established by Hashem himself, this is a matter that's seemingly difficult concerning Hashem. All matters down here below came down by chain descent from the way they are above. How they move, and so it's understood. Also in the spiritual realms, there's the idea of sea and dry land. The idea behind this is, what's the idea of sea and dry land? In Chazal said, in our world, there everything's on dry land is to be found. It's similar type of thing also in the sea. But the creations that live on dry land are not openly bound up with the source of their life. Creatures of the dry land can live and exist even when they're swimming upon the water or when they're flying in the air. It doesn't touch, it doesn't matter to them, it doesn't affect them. As opposed to creatures of the sea, fishes of the sea, as soon as they rise up to dry land, immediately they die. Their entire existence in a revealed way is only in the place of their life. They sense and they feel the source of their life and existence and where they come from. So just like it is in the physical world, so Yami Abash Lamaila means the following: making Lamaila, so to above. Shesh Almin Stim and Leis Galion, their concealed worlds are not revealed, the Almin is Galion, and they're revealed worlds. For my flesh I will perceive godliness, Sharoim Benefshadam, we see in the soul of a person, Sheyesh in Yonim Shadam Margish, Shehem Behelam, Udveikus Bemikoidam, that a person feels and senses that they are concealed and they are cleaving to their source. Top of page test. For example, the idea of thought. Though there's the existence of letters, and the letters are organized in the thought. Still in all, it's still concealed within the person himself. Therefore, thought is an example for the concealed worlds that are not revealed. As opposed to speech that's revealed, in this Galion is similar to the revealed worlds. Until this world, that is called a world because olam indicates concealment and covering. And this world, the power that gives life and brings it into existence, is no way of concealment. Until there's a possibility to have a mistake to think that there's no one that is in charge of this. So too, it's also to the creatures of the sea and the dry land in the spiritual sense. They're neshamas that were created in the way of the concealed worlds. Like, for example, malachim, that sense their life source. And like it says, that the fear of Hashem is to those that are alive, meaning they have the constant sense of Hashem, they have that awe of Hashem. There's the neshamas of this lower world, because of the concealment and covering of this world. They need difficult work. They love it. To come to the recognition that there's an owner to this building, to this palace, to this creation. To be in a state and situation that I admit to you and I thank to you, in such a way it's connected with his neshama. It comes only through their meditation and contemplation do they reach this particular level, because they are creations of the land, the revealed worlds that do not need to be openly connected to their source.